do. So today we're going to be looking at a famous British artist who has a local connection to this area, and he's a British artist and he's done a lot of famous work. Some of it you might actually recognise when you see it. He's not just done a lot of art in England, he's done a lot of work throughout the world. So he was born in London, but he went to a boarding school in Yorkshire, and there's actually a local connection to the school that he went to. Any ideas?
Is it Edinburgh?
Not Edinburgh. Edinburgh's a little bit further away, so it's in Yorkshire, and it's close to Slingsby. Can anybody think of a boarding school? I'll give you a clue. It's somewhere that you go. Well, when swimming starts again, you might go there. Ampleforth. So he actually went to Ampleforth College. So he's quite local to the area. Well, he has a local connection, and he studied history of art at Cambridge University, and that's where he met his wife. So, did you know he was actually quite a big family? I think he was the youngest of 7 children. So what I want you all to do now, this is something that Anthony Gormley was asked by his mum to do after he'd had his lunch from about the age of 6. So I know it seems a bit strange, but can everybody just close their eyes? Just for a minute, just nice and quietly, closing your eyes. And what Anthony would do was told that every time he had his lunch, he had to go for half an hour rest. And to start with, Anthony really didn't enjoy this time, but as he grew older and used this time, he actually quite enjoyed it. And I just want you to think of how it makes you feel having your eyes closed and just having a little rest, a little bit of quiet time. Open your eyes. Right, how did that make you feel?
A little bit bored, because all you got to do is close your eyes and rest.
Well, I think initially Anthony was quite bored as well. Calm, yeah, that's a really good feeling to have, closing our eyes.
I feel like I want to stay like that.
Yeah, that's often, when he closed his eyes, he's often found a sense of space, and he was interested in how his body felt in space and time. And the longer he closed his eyes, the bigger he thought space got. So this is an interesting thing that he thought of as a child, and throughout his work, it's a theme that he uses in his work. The theme of sort of the body, the human body in time and space. So Anthony actually uses his own body for moulding his sculptures. So he would stand probably for hours, and people would wrap him in cling film, and then they would make a cast of him in clay. And he would have to hold these poses for a long periods of time to gain different models and casts of himself. Obviously, he would avoid the face and the nostrils so he could breathe, so don't worry about that. But he would use this, but as technology's developed, he uses more like 3D scanning and stuff to create his models as well. How would you maybe go about making a sculpture if you were making one yourself? Of a maybe a human body or something else?
I would get some plain film, wrap it around me, then put clay, but then leave my face out, so then you can paint the inside.
Wow, that's a really interesting idea. Yes?
I would make a sculpture by telling someone to take a picture of me and then putting it down, then drawing that picture.
Oh, so you create a picture first before making it into a sculpture?
Yeah.
So these are really, really good ideas. And I don't think there's a wrong answer to this. This is just the way that Anthony worked. So he's quite quite a famous artist and he's won quite a lot of awards. This is, have anybody heard of the Turner Prize?
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is sort of a modern, prestigious, quite, everybody wants this award, that's given to like new art, and he actually took him about 10 years to be a well-known, recognised artist, and he got his first prize in 1994.
And then how old was he then?
We'll have to work that one out. We'll come back to that one. So a lot of his work, if you look at here, he like I was saying, he was interested in between the connection of the human body and the human emotions and how the impact it sort of had on the environment, or how it made you look different how it made you feel about the environment differently. So looking at these, how does these are all made of the casts of Anthony's body, and then he'd make them out of, I think this is made out of sort of iron. He'd have them cast in not stainless steel, but iron, and then he'd have them position them on the beach, and they're actually, I think this one is actually in a place near Liverpool on the coast. How does it make you feel seeing these pictures, or this image of these sculptures?
I think it makes me feel like a bit calmer.
Yeah, I would give that, especially when you can see the horizon and the sunset.
When you said it was near Liverpool, it reminded me somewhere where my step-grandpa lives.
Oh, so you have a local connection, yes, George?
It makes me feel a little bit calm too.
I would agree with that. Do you know what it makes me? It makes me feel like I'm quite insignificant, that there's a lot of distance between me and the space and the sea and the beach. And what you would see, because this is when the tide is quite low, you can see just sometimes you can just see the heads of the sculptures, and they're actually still there, and a lot of them probably have been covered in barnacles, and the nature's taken them back and changed them.
It even looks like real people.
It really does, doesn't it? They're very realistic, I would
Why
say.
wouldn't they take it away
Still.
stay like lift out of the sand and then they could use
I think they've probably got quite strong foundations actually that keep them sort of in the same place, because it'd be quite dangerous if these really heavy sculptures were moving.
It's actually really, really clever.
Yeah, I would agree. You can see, looking for, I think it's about a mile long, and these sculptures go out to about a mile. You can see the further away, the smaller they get.
Yeah.
So we've talked about
How did they put it that far away?
Oh, this is a really good question. What do you think this is made of?
I think bricks.
Wood.
Tiles.
Oh, not
Wood.
quite.
I think it's wood.
Not quite, no.
I think it's made out of paper.
No. Yeah.
Clay.
No.
What the?
It's something that you probably might eat. You might eat for breakfast.
Oh,
Here it
I
is.
know. I remember.
Oh, go on then. Not breakfast. You do eat breakfast for breakfast?
It's the like flat, small things that are like flat.
Oh,
I know
think
what
Johnny
it
might know.
Bread.
It's made from bread. It's made from toast. And you can see, I think this piece of artwork is called Lying in Bed.
I
Can you
was
see?
actually just about to say if it was made out of oats.
No, not quite. It's made out of bread. And it was called Bed. And it was in London in 1981. And yet he made this entire sculpture of bread. So art doesn't have to just be made of metals or plastic. It can really be made out of anything, and he used bread to create his artwork. So does anybody know this image?
Oh, I know it.
Oh, yes.
Oh, it's a flying guy. I know, I can't remember the name of it, but it is something that I've seen in a book.
Oh.
I've seen that when I was driving on the road next
Yes,
to
you
them.
will do that. I think it's on the A1. It's a special statue.
I've
Yes.
seen it. I've seen it, and it's made of wood, I think.
Oh, I think close. It's made of metal. Can we make sure we're not all shouting out, please? Hand up if you've got something to say. You remember? What does it remind you of?
It's the Angel of the North.
Right, well done. This is the Angel of the North, and this is maybe one of his most famous sort of sculptures. And this is on the A1.
Yeah. That's where I go to my grandma and granddad's house.
On Gateshead, and it's 20 metres tall, and it's the same length as a cricket pitch, and it's got a huge 54-metre wingspan, which is probably the size of a jumbo jet. The wingspan of a jumbo jet, and that stands on an actual old coal mine.
Is he actually going to fly?
I think it might be a bit heavy. It's made of copper, concrete and steel.
Is it cotton?
Yeah, and we said it's made on
Did he build it?
He designed it. So again, this is some of the ones at the beach that are close up. And you can see here, what's this on here?
Metal ball. Seaweed.
Seaweed and barnacles. And he actually says this is his favourite part of the sculpture because nature is creating it, changing it.
It says what would this sculpture be looking at?
Yeah, what could it be looking at?
I don't really
The
know.
sea.
Sea, or the horizon, or the distance, or space. And that's a big thing about Anthony Gormley. He liked his sculptures to change how people look at the space around them. Not just at the sculpture, about how the sculpture in the environment it is changed the space and how you look at it differently.
Please, can you go back to the Angel of the North?
I will do. We'll just get through this and then we can have a look at it again.
Because I need to ask Johnny a question. It looks like the feet were across the road, and how did Johnny get through it?
Well, no, the feet, it's not, it's on a big mound. I think that was maybe the path that's around it. There is a path you can walk up to it. But it's a good question.
The road is it's on a hill down.
So this is another one here. This is another sculpture here. And this one is actually I think this is in the Netherlands. And he did this piece of artwork, and it's to do, we see it's here, I think it's on a reservoir, and it was to do, and as the water level goes up and down, the sculpture almost goes into the water. Yeah, what sort of pose is he sort of doing?
Chicken.
Make sure there's no shouting out. Sort of, I would say sort of crouching, he's almost sort of thinking, isn't it, I'd say? Sort of thinking.
I think he's posing as a turtle.
Maybe. So, yeah, it's in the Netherlands and it took 6 years to build. And Anthony said the sculpture's meant to react with the environment over a long period of time, and it will change, and the colours of the metals will change, and it will rust and age. And he thinks, because the sea level's rising, he thinks obviously the position of this sculpture will change as well, because it will end up being in the water, and it's sort of there to demonstrate how the environment's changing. And this actually took 2,000 parts to make, including 5,400 bolts. So there's a lot of work to do with that sculpture, isn't it? So this is a little quote from Anthony, and he says, "Art is the means by which we communicate what we feel like to be alive." So I think a lot of his sculptures do represent emotions, don't they, and how humans interact with the environment. So we are going to make our very own sculptures today. Not quite on the massive scale as Anthony Gormley, but we're going to make our own tinfoil sculptures. So you might want to look at, what do you think this one looks like? Like it's doing yoga.
I was going to say yoga.
I took some inspiration from your yoga class yesterday when I was making these ones. And then this one here, you can have a look at them later. What do you think? This one, I think his hand's supposed to be up there. He's moved a little bit.
He's saying hi.
I think he's actually trying to. Well, I was trying to get him to go like this, like he's maybe thinking.
He's got soldiers.
And what about this one here?
He's dancing.
Yeah, he's trying to do a bit of a dance here. Okay.
I was just gonna say, when I first looked at it, it looked like he was doing the dance.
Yeah, it's a bit like the Usain Bolt one, isn't it?
Oh,